So what's all this import business that's going on? So JavaScript, for a very, very long time, 20 years, in fact, did not have a native way to import code from one JavaScript file into another. For every new JavaScript file you had to actually add a new script tag to your HTML. That's super annoying and makes dependency management much, much harder. But in ES6, aka ECMAScript 2015, we have modules now. We have a module system. There were some non-standard module systems that others had come up with to kind of fill this gap for a while. But now there's a standard way to do it, and that's the way we're doing it. So I'm going to look at index.js real quick, and you'll see import React from React. Now, since we're using Yarn or NPM for dependency management, we have a folder called Node Modules, which, as we saw, contains a whole lot of crap. If we want to import something from one of those node modules, we can do it like this. Import, and then tell it what we want to import it as. From, and then the thing we put in a string here is the name of a node module. It's the name of one of the things that's inside our node modules folder. In other words, one of our dependencies. Or we can put a path to a file from our own project. So dot means current directory, right? So that means look for a file called app inside the current directory. And if you're importing from a JavaScript file, you don't need to put .js. It knows. So this is the same as putting ./app.js. And we can import our CSS file too, because of the way this is configured. And the CSS file just works. So why can we import from app? Let's look at app.js. We can import from here because we export from here. If you go to the very bottom, you'll see export default app. So app is the name of our class. Here it is, class app. So I am exporting that class. And by saying export default, that means that if you import from this file, that's the thing you're going to be importing unless you specify otherwise. You're going to be importing app because it is the default export for this file. So over here in index.js, we do that. Import app from app. Now keep in mind, this is essentially the local variable name we're giving it. We could have said import pancakes from app, and it still would have been app that we were importing because that's what was being exported. But you can import it as a different name. But don't. Unless you have a really good reason, like you already have another import with the same name or something. So because it is the default export, we just say import that thing from that file. And we import React from React because React is the default export from the React package or module. But notice we did that a little differently inside app.js. We imported React, comma, curly braces, component. So you can export more than one thing from a file, from a JavaScript module. And the presence of exports is really the only thing that makes it a module. So in addition to your default export, you can have named exports. So if, for example, I had const foo equals 4 export foo. Now foo is, I should say export const like this. That should work. Now foo will be a named export. And what that means is from index.js, I could import that by putting it in square brackets, or curly braces, excuse me. Now I'm importing a named thing. And that's what we did with, or what they did with component here.
So you can't give a component any name you want. It has to be component, right?
No. It has to be component if you do it like this, but you can also say as. So I could say component as fish sandwich. Then I can totally do that and call it fish sandwich down here. But yeah, since it's a named export, it needs to know the name it was exported as, right? But you could still rename it by using as. Again, don't do that unless you have a pretty good reason. This is not a very good reason. I mean, it's a fine enough reason to demonstrate, but we'll not leave it like that permanently. So that's a super quick overview of ES6 modules. A system for importing and exporting. Much nicer than the old way.